obviously, it being a Wednesday, we'll have parenting later on. Jonathan will be in to answer some of your questions. Now, for some years, Jonathan and Anna SACCONEJOLY, originally from Ireland but now living in the UK, have been among the world's biggest vloggers. Most of their output has involved family life and raising their kids, but now they've stopped and deleted thousands of those videos from YouTube. Jonathan joins us now. Good afternoon, Jonathan.
Hey, I'm good.
There's a few things to talk about, I suppose, but we'll start with the videos. How many did you delete and why?
Oh, it was 12 years of videos, so it was a lot. It took a couple of days. It wasn't a quick thing to remove them all. I just mainly top line it. It's just the internet is not the same place as it used to be. You know, I'm not the same person as I used to be. You know, when I was doing all the press for the book back in January in Ireland, I had said that on all the TV shows and stuff that I'd done. I'd said, like, I wouldn't do YouTube today how I did it back in the day. And oddly enough, I was just listening to the news there, and they were talking about difficult children. And I was kind of nodding away here thinking, yeah, that's all ahead of me, you know. And that's the thing, you know, we're heading towards, you know, we have a 10-year-old now, you know, and things are different. Things are changing. And we've been parents for 10 years as well. So we obviously will do a lot of things different now than we did before. Our two youngest kids are the age that our two oldest kids were during the peak of when we did YouTube. And I just think it's not, you know, it's not the same, you know, it's not right to do it anymore.
Right. Okay. I mean, do you mean in the sense that I suppose maybe perhaps people were a bit more innocent when all this started off? We didn't.
I think we were. We were too, you know. We were like, you know, this was like it just kind of like took off without us really thinking about it, you know. We went from like barely making rent to just skyrocketing, traveling the world, and it just kind of took away itself, and there was no time. And I think during COVID, about every decision in life, everyone had a moment to kind of like readdress. And, you know, I turned 40 during that pandemic, and I kind of just like, I don't know, my opinions have changed. And I look at the internet now and so much misinformation and toxic opinion, and, you know, and I just think like, I don't know, it's not the same thing anymore. So I definitely wouldn't do that anymore.
I assume then that over the years, you've had some degree of pushback, you've had criticism.
Yeah, well, you know, we were public. You know, we went through some of our biggest parenting trials in the public eye, you know, so that was definitely challenging, to say the least, you know, but I don't regret anything we did. We did it. It was a thing that people did during that time. We started YouTube in 2008. If you think about 2008 compared to 2022, you know, the internet evolved a lot, you know, people's opinions evolved a lot. You know, everyone was like celebrating and clapping us. You know, so what you do, you just keep going because public opinion is saying, hey, go for it. This is cool. We enjoy this. And you're like, okay, sure, I'll just keep doing this. And everyone around us is like, yeah, sure, you should do this. You know, and we're like, okay, you know, until you start to feel like, I don't know if we should do this anymore. But then there were so many people depending on us to keep doing it. You know, they were kind of like, all right, I'll keep doing it, you know.
So in precisely in what way, Jonathan, did that change from the everybody thought that it was a good thing?
It's just the nature of entertainment, I suppose, or the internet. You know, we all watched certain television shows that aired, you know, during, let's say, in the 2000s, that if they were aired today, we would all go, ooh, that didn't age well. You know, it's like, is that the right thing to do? But, you know, we're very more knowledgeable today about the dangers of the internet. You know, that maybe when it first started, you know, we were more like, oh, this is fun, because it was so like niche, you know, making YouTube videos in Ireland in 2008. I was one of 3 people making internet videos, you know, so it was just so niche and it was so small, you know, and then within 5 years, you know, we had nearly 1 billion views, and it was just like, whoa, you know, and it was just, you know, it's too much to comprehend, you know, that we just kind of went along with it until it sort of dawned that we're like, I don't really feel right doing this anymore. Yeah. So, you know, and then,
so are all the videos gone from YouTube?
Yeah.
But I assume you have other social media platforms. Do you still have content up there?
Oh yeah, Instagram and TikTok, and well, I don't do Twitter or Snapchat or Facebook anymore.
Yeah, but would would your kids feature on Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah, like I don't think there's any there's a big difference between having older children where they're more aware of their presence, so it's like they kind of, because my kids are obsessed with making videos now, like short form videos on platforms that are popular with their age groups, and all their friends are like, oh, you should make, so they come to me now more so, it's kind of like the tables have turned and I'm more the one saying, no, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, no, stop. I'm like, no, you've made too many, it's like they're annoyed that we don't do YouTube anymore. They're like, oh, can we not fill the house with balls like we did years ago? I'm like, no, we can't.
Yeah. Because I assume some of the criticism, Jonathan, must have been that you monetized your own children.
Yeah, people said all sorts of stuff about us, over the years. Like, we just did the best that we could. You know what I mean? Well, myself, my wife, we just, there was no opportunities during that 2008 period when, I graduated from university and we hit this recession and it was just no jobs. And I remember trying to get, going in to get, the dole, and then they denied it to me because I left the country to get my degree. And they said, no, you've been out of the country for a year, so you can't have benefits. And I was like, what the hell am I supposed to pay my rent? They're like, I don't know. And then it was like, started making YouTube videos and I got 60, 70 quid. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I got a job, and then I would sit in my job, hate my job. But then I got £200 and then £300 and £400. And I did it for like 2 years. And eventually I made my rent. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And then it just kind of went from there. And now we're here and I'm like, I wouldn't do it again. I'm really happy that hey, look, timing was great. We got lucky. It worked out for us in a way, but I just feel like I just don't know if it's right anymore.
Yeah, because I suppose if you look back and we're all geniuses in hindsight and completely moral people, you don't know if you're making a video with a child, whether the child is actually consenting to that or even can appreciate the ramifications of sticking something on the World Wide Web.
And like I said, now I have a 10-year-old. Yeah. And now I hear what she says to me and I'm like, okay, wow. You guys are so aware of everything. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't know when I had a 3-year-old, I was like, okay, I got this. I'm like, no. Yeah. Now I look back and think, you had no clue. And as a 10-year-old, what they just said on the news pod there about having 15-year-olds is the worst. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was the worst. So it gets worse, does it? Oh, okay.
It never stops getting worse. I can guarantee you that. When they're 30, it'll still be bad. But given what you just said there about YouTube, does the same logic not apply then to kind of TikTok and Instagram?
No, because it's not... it's a hard debate, because some people are like anti, like kids and content and all that stuff. And I'm like, but they've always been content, people are content, you know what I mean? No matter what they are. I think there probably needs to be more, safeguarding in place, you know what I mean? For when it comes to commercial content, definitely there should be, like when we do a lot of commercial content, we do tend to get, a third party involved. So that there is a chaperoning in place, just like there would be in film and television, if you're going to work with young people. And I feel like the internet isn't regulated in that sense. But then I'm not the one who's saying people shouldn't do things because I did it. You know what I mean? And I just feel like I spent 12 years in that space and I look back at that space now and I think, okay, listen to me. This is what I've learned over those 12 years. There's a lot of areas that could be improved upon. And there's a lot of areas that are okay. And we're not shaming anybody for making TikToks, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever it is. If that's your livelihood, if that's how you make your rent and pay for your life, go for it. Yeah. People have the freedom to make an income. But when it comes to, the commercial end of things sometimes, and I've been privy to conversations, cause I've traveled the world with this stuff and I've been a big player in it. And I've heard people talk about, you know what I mean? The alluring of overexposing and, and I've walked out of meetings from people trying to push me into doing more child-led stuff, even though it makes more money. And I'm like, but I can't do that because I can't agree with that.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the Adley videos?
I don't think so.
No, but she's like her dad is a big player in social media in various strands, but she makes these videos where essentially she's playing with her parents, but she's 6. And you know, there's hundreds of them up there. So this is pretty much a full-time job for that little girl. And
yeah, that's where...
And 6-year-olds love it. I have a 6-year-old who loves it, but you're kind of looking at that going, whoa, you know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If, you know, through my catalogue for the 12 years that we made videos, we never did child-led content. For that very reason, I don't agree with it. But then it's really hard for, you know, people to think about, what do you mean he doesn't agree with it? He makes them. Like, I don't. I make Jonathan and Anna-led content that featured the children that, you know, hindsight, half the catalogue should have never gone up, but we did it. And I'm standing over the fact that I did it, but I deleted it all now, you know, because I'm trying to say, okay, all right, I feel that maybe that's what I'll do now. Maybe I'll use my voice to try and leverage the change that I feel that needs to happen. Because if a regulatory body comes after creators and says, hey, you can't do that anymore, that's not really fair. But I feel like I know where the problems are.
Now, coming to this decision, and I assume it's the two of you who came to this decision, was that somewhat informed by, I suppose, maybe during the pandemic, having more time to think? Also, you did mention earlier on your book, All My Friends Are Invisible, where you write about coming to the conclusion that you're gender fluid. Does all that kind of feed into this decision?
It's non-binary, not gender fluid.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. But, actually, sorry, Jonathan, and but I don't know what the difference is between those two things.
Read my book.
Okay, but for the people listening, Jonathan, who mightn't read your book, what is the difference between those two things?
Okay, I no matter how I answer this, I will be told I am wrong.
Okay.
This is what I have learned. Okay, so we leave it up to your listeners to establish that for themselves. If they are non-binary, they will know. You know, if they don't feel like a boy or a girl versus feeling like a boy and a girl.
Right. Okay.
That's
gotcha.
Basically, that's all I can do without hanging myself somehow.
Right. Okay. No, that's fair enough. And I wasn't trying to be smart or facetious. It's
no, I know
that.
But I'm very aware of how everything I say gets twisted. So I'm just trying to be cautious.
Right. Okay. But coming to the conclusion that you were non-binary, was it kind of something that you kind of, when you realized, you thought, I've always felt this way?
Oh, well, yeah, like that's what the book is. It's basically me from 3 years old to 14 years old, you know, and something, you know, when you're a kid and you've got no friends and your life is pretty sad, and then you realize that you're kind of tired of living a sad life. So one day you decide, I'm going to pretend to be the kind of cool kid, the kind of kid that's not sad anymore. And then you do that. And then all of a sudden you're popular. And then you're like, hey, this is better. I'm going to keep pretending to be the kind of person that people like. And then that's fine. And then 36 years later, my mind decided that I could no longer hold in all my emotional trauma and all the things I hadn't dealt with. And in an airport in 2016, it decided to explode in my head and I had a panic attack, and that's how the book starts, you know, and it's just like coming to terms with that. And then, you know, I think that like me ending the videos, there could be, you know, somebody might say, a psychologist or someone might say that the reason he's deleted all the videos is because Jonathan never made those videos. That was one of my projections, and making the videos was a way for me to further conceal myself. You know, but that's looking very, very deep into making YouTube videos.
And also as well, you know, is this also related to what's happening with Edie now?
Taking down the videos, or
and you know, and your own conclusions.
Kind of is, you know, because 2 years ago I had 4 cisgender children to my knowledge. And I was living a traditional, normal life and everything was fine, you know, and then it established that was not true. And now I have a transgender child, and it's a whole new world that I don't understand. And it's a whole new world I'm learning. And we have support groups and therapy, and we're trying to learn and trying to best support her. And also as a parent, I feel really bad about the fact that we let that run for 6 years. You know, she's 8 now and she's really happy, but for the first, 6 years, she had gender dysphoria and she was really confused and really sad. And as her parent, I feel really bad. And then when she felt it was safe to talk involving third parties to help mediate, to give her a sense of safety. She was telling us that, it's been like this for her whole life, and she would cry herself asleep, and she had no friends, and and then we're like, oh my God, what have we done? And I'm like, I need to fix that. And then you look around, you're like, oh my God, I'm so public. And we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? That's why about a year or so ago, we kind of stopped making YouTube videos. That was like step one, stop the habit, and then step two, erase the habit,
Yeah. How do you make a living then now?
Just a mixture of different things, I do like consulting stuff and just different kind of stuff. I've been in this business for 14 years, and I've made a lot of connections, and, a lot of people value the fact that I've been on the internet for 14 years with a career. I understand how it works. I've seen platforms come and go, and I help a lot of other creators, and I help a lot of brands understanding how they, because it can be quite a scary place for people to come onto the internet and understand it, and it's, being a 40-year-old in the internet, you're almost like a great grandfather, with your knowledge base.
Jonathan, thanks so much for speaking with us today. That was Jonathan Joly there. We'll change the tone a wee bit, not a whole lot, talk about cash.
Your chance to win big. Newstalk's cash machine.
53106 is our text number. That will cost you 30 cents. You are listening to the Moncrieff Show on Newstalk. Before the break, we were talking to Jonathan Joly. Himself and his wife Anna have been making YouTube videos, mostly about their kids, for the last decade or so, and built up an absolutely huge following. They've deleted all the videos on YouTube, and Jonathan's argument was, well, back in the day, you kind of would do those things, and the internet was a different place, and there was novelty to it. Now, in retrospect, perhaps you wouldn't. Though not a lot of love for Jonathan, though. Got to be honest with you. Caroline says, have to be honest. If you were a dose in 2008, you're still a dose now. Common sense was never to expose children to being used for attention in that way, says Caroline. Well, yes, you're right. In fairness, back in 2008, probably most of us, in a casual sense, we're kind of far less aware of that. Whereas as now, we had a question in parenting, I think, the other week, where there was an issue about putting pictures of kids at a birthday party on Facebook, and whether that, you should ask permission to do that or not. Another texter says, this man is talking about both sides of his mouth. I'm keeping them on TikTok, but taking them off YouTube. Another Caroline says, that man who's just referred to his kids as content with no regard for their consent or privacy, child protection, etc. He still thinks it's okay to go for it on TikTok or Instagram to make money from exposing his kids parenting anyone, she says. Right.